What's up, y'all? Sparta here. I want to do my LG V30 review. Now, it's been over a week now. I got the phone last Monday. It's Thursday now. I wanted to take my time with the phone rather than just straight cranking out a review after just a week, because I don't think that's enough to know what you would like in a phone and what you dislike in a phone. Now, I'm going to just get this out off the bat. There are I can't necessarily name anything that I don't like about the V30. The slight things that I don't like: sure, no removable battery, no IR blaster. The phone can be a bit heftier, but then again, I think I prefer the lightweight over, say, something like my Note 8, which is like a heavy tank, because of the simple fact that every time I pick up my V30, I don't feel any sort of like arm strain, especially when I'm just like tired. But with my Note 8, it's like this unwieldy beast, and a lot of the things that the V30 does right is feel compact in your hand and not be super tall. I unlock the phone, I can go all the way up to my notification shade. If I can hit the turn the brightness down, and it'll be just fine. Whereas my Note 8, I pretty much need to use the swipe down on the fingerprint sensor and able to get to the notification shade. Another thing that I'll say right off the bat is that a lot of people bemoan the fact that LG went and took out the removable battery in the IR blaster and stuff like that. To me, they'll probably scan my face. To me, I feel that taking out the removable battery, sure, is something that a lot of people hate. But in the interim, you get something like way better battery life overall. I'd much rather, honestly, be able to have more endurance throughout the day than have to switch out a battery, honestly. Which I know is not something that is very common. Like, after my V10, I kind of stopped using that removable battery feature as much as I used to. Like, my G5 and my V10 were like pretty much the only phones that I used with taking out the battery when that battery was done being used. And I still got 4.5 hours of screen on time out of both of those phones. With this phone, when it comes to battery, I get that and more. I can get at least 5 hours, maybe like 5 hours and 25 minutes of screen on time out of this phone, and that's amazing. For a phone that has a 3300 milliamp hour battery, whatever black magic LG and both Samsung are working with their phones to get this kind of endurance out of you. Now, Samsung is a bit different. Their software is not making it so, and this is another versus video. I'm just comparing the two phones that I've been using. So, just for review, it may get like an extra, like one less half an hour less or 45 minutes less than, say, the V30 does as far as battery life goes, but it's still great. So let me talk about the specs that the phone has. It has a 3300 milliamp hour battery. It has dual cameras, a 16 and a 13 megapixel camera. One's a wide angle. It's f1.6 on one lens, f1.9 on the other lens. You have your laser autofocus and you have your flash. You have your power button that doubles as a fingerprint sensor if the phone will. You have this glass, and I've heard some people call this stainless steel, so I'm gonna just call it stainless steel. Stainless steel band, very clicky, not mushy volume buttons. You have your USB-C port on the bottom. You have your speaker grill on the bottom as well. You have one mic down there, your receiver right there, your 5 megapixel camera on the front, which it literally just scanned my face. That's why it turned on. You have your headphone jack on the top, which for a lot of people they don't like. I'll say this, I didn't like it at first, but then I got used to it. So, plus I'd rather have a headphone jack than not have one. You have your 6-inch POLED 2880 by 1440 18:9 display. A very controversial display, which I've talked about many of times, but I'll get into that in a minute. This is the silver variant. It comes in the black variant. It also comes in the plus variant, which just has 128 gigs of internal storage. If you're in the US and you have Sprint, that's the only place that you can get it, which I do hate. And that's the only one that comes with headphones in the box, which I hate as well. They need to stop doing that. Nonetheless, since I have a couple pairs of expensive headphones, I don't really care, but that's still something I have to say. I'll talk about the construction of the phone here real quick. The phone feels really nice. Feels good in the hands, as Flossie Carter would say, you know. It doesn't feel cheap. It doesn't feel like you're not holding anything. It does feel lighter than any other phone that you would get, but that isn't to say that it feels like a paperweight or something like that. It doesn't feel like that. All right, so overall experience. I'll say this: the V30 compared to my Note 8 has had way less jank as far as just usability goes. And this has 4 gigabytes of RAM. The Note 8 has 6 gigabytes of RAM. They both have the Snapdragon 835 with the Adreno 540 GPU, all that sweet stuff. But the V30 is kind of proof that you don't need more RAM to have better, performance out of your phone, as well as a lot of people say, oh, you need AMOLED if you want better battery life. No, because even with my V20 with its LCD display, I got better battery life out of that than I did my Note 8. A little bit. No, not even my Note 8. My S7. My S7. So, and sure, it has a slightly bigger battery, but still a smaller phone versus a bigger phone with a bigger screen, it should take more battery, right? Plus that quad DAC, but this isn't V20, right? IP68 water and dust resistance, that's been nice as well. It's been snowing / raining / being very finicky as far as weather is in Minnesota right now, so it's great to have that peace of mind that I don't have to worry about that. Wireless charging, nice to have. Goes right on there. It tells you how much time it'll take to charge, whether you do it on the wireless charger or your fast charger. Supports Quick Charge 3.0 and all that good stuff. What else? The always on display is probably my favorite on the phone right now. Like, not to say they necessarily do it the best, but for me, there are a lot of different ways you could customize this always on display, and it looks nice no matter which you decide to use. I prefer to use this big clock right here because my eyes, but especially when I'm far away from the phone, it's easier for me to see, but that's pretty much it. No app drawer with the stock launcher. I'm using the stock launcher right now. I don't necessarily care about not having an app drawer anymore. If you care about that, go up to home screen, go to select home, and go to home and app drawer. You don't have to download this like you did with the G5 and I believe the V20, but it's there right out the gate, so you don't have to worry about that. Battery life, as I said, is good. Great. Endurance on this phone is nice. I will say that, and as well as internals, thermals, and stuff like that, this phone doesn't get hot at all. Aside from the very rare case where it's like super hot outside and you're using your phone and your phone decides to get warm as well because it's hot outside, that's pretty much the only way this phone will get warmer. But it doesn't get like unusably hot. It may get a bit warm depending on what you're doing, but say if I'm playing something very like graphics intensive, like say Injustice 2, MKX, Mortal Kombat X, Marvel Future Fight, for long periods of time, it doesn't decide that, oh, I don't want to work, or oh, I want to slow down and thermal throttle, like a lot of LG phones used to do back in the day, say the G4 and whatnot, right? I'll talk about one thing that a lot of people miss with the V series, and that's the secondary display that you used to have, say, right here. And I don't miss it as much as a lot of people do. Not to say I didn't use it, I used it a lot, but what LG did to keep it in, they made it available in software, which I like a lot. From your always on display, you can swipe to get basically the same toggles you did on the secondary display when your screen was locked. You get, your playback controls, you get your battery percentage, and you get pretty much everything. You get your Wi-Fi, you get your, which I don't know why that's on. Because last night, there's heavy traffic in this area for T-Mobile, so last night it was kind of bad for me to use my data. Get your flashlight, Bluetooth, volume toggle, quick memo, Wi-Fi, and your camera. From here, you get your camera one right here, if I can do it right, and you get your phone one right here, your phone shortcut right there. You can add more shortcuts. I always forget that's the case because I haven't done that in a while. All you got to really do is go on the lock screen. You go to shortcuts. And as you guys can see, you could add more down there. Say you want Gmail or something. You can add that down there. Lock the screen. Oh, I actually got to get out of it. And it'll save it. Lock the screen, and it's there. I'm going to take that off because I'm not going to use that. Let me talk about the elephant in the room one more time. That's the display. I haven't had any issues with the display aside from the blue tint issue that a lot of people have been talking about. And that's not as intense as people like to. I think a lot of people are just talking about the Pixel 2 XL and just referencing back to the V30. And the V30 doesn't have that issue as terribly. As I pointed out with my V30 versus Note 8 screen comparison, both phones color shift. They just have a different color that they shift to. This shifts to blue. This shifts more to like an orange or like a reddish color. So I'm not going to talk about it anymore. Other than that, the screen is great. It looks nice. It gets bright outdoors. If I decide to turn it up like this, it gets very bright. It looks good. Viewing angles are good. They're great. Aside from that blue tint, which honestly works in my favor because my eyes are just bad and it's better for it to look at a cooler display. That's just me personally. If it doesn't bother you that it does that blue shift, then get the phone. Because the display is the main thing you look at when you open a phone. So for anybody to just straight up say that the V30 screen is trash, don't believe them. This screen does not look blurry. It does not look crappy. If they compare it to the Note 8 and said the Note 8 looks sharper, that's because it is sharper. It has a 2960 by 1440 display. Again, 2880 by 1440 display. I'll talk about audio here real quick. The speaker quality on the bottom is not terrible, but it's not amazing as well. Like, it could be better, but nah, I can't listen to this. It's a little bit too dirty. I listen to... As you guys can hear, it gets nice and loud. It gets loud enough, but I think the one thing that you got to realize is that with certain YouTube videos, they're mixed differently. So of course, some YouTube videos are gonna sound louder or lower than others. So just keep that in mind. The one thing about audio that you really need to pay attention to is the quad DAC. That is something that is probably the feature to get if you want this phone. It'll work pretty much with anything. If you want it, it'll work with things like, say, your sound system, your radio, you know, your in-car radio system, if you have a sound system in there. High impedance headphones up to 600 ohms. Stuff like that. Now, I don't have high impedance headphones at the moment. I'm waiting for those to come and say they should come they should come next month, if anything. So just keep that in mind. I will make a review on those, the Sennheiser HD 650s. I ordered those a while back, so I will be getting those real soon. So just keep that in mind. I will talk about that. The camera. The camera I want to make a separate review on. I want to do a separate overall review on the camera. But I will say this. When it comes to stills on this phone, auto mode is good enough. I won't say it's the best. But if you want something that looks, say... What the fuck? Randomly corrupted files. I'm sorry. We want something that looks good enough. I post a lot of these to my Instagram page. If you guys want me to link my Instagram page in the description or something, I'll do that. But as you guys can see, I focused directly on the sun. This is a wide angle photo. Now keep in mind the Note 8's not focusing very well right now. What's up, y'all? Sparty here. I'm just gonna put the pictures into the video itself. This audio is also recorded on the LG V30 as well, so let me know how this sounds as well as how you guys feel about the pictures. I'm cycling between low light and day, back to low light again, just to give you guys a representation of how it looks. Okay, so as you guys were able to see there, the camera on this phone is very, very good. All of those were taken in auto. None of them were taken in manual mode. So a lot of reviewers have been saying that the auto mode on here is poor. I think it's actually very good. Sure, it doesn't look as oversaturated, but that's what I like about it. So to each their own, as I always say, right? So my final verdict on the phone itself. I guess before I get into that, Um, a lot of people, lost when it came to what the drawbacks and stuff like that a lot of people have with the LG V30 have to do with what I don't know why the fuck these are the LG V10 and LG V20 have that this phone doesn't have. IR blaster, removable battery, secondary display. But I've shown you guys that secondary display is pretty much mitigated. It doesn't have the feature for you to be able to not have notifications just pop up, or you don't pop down, or you don't have a signature. You don't have that. That can be put on your always on display. But as you guys can see here, the floating bar, which is something you can enable in settings. It's in display, I know that. I just forget where it's at. If anything, what I normally do is I just decide to, look up floating bar in the search query, and it'll come up in your settings. And you could just enable it like that, and you could change what you want. You get the basic stuff, your favorite apps. You don't get your recent apps either. You get your quick capture, GIFs and stuff like that. Get your recent contacts and your favorite contacts, and you get your music playback controls. As you guys can see, when I redeploy it, when I put it back, it fades out, and you could choose to remove it, and that'll come up in your notification shade. You just press it, and it comes back. It also goes away in videos as well. So say you want to watch a video or whatever, right? I don't know what so I'm not gonna get copyright. You can it'll go away. I pressed the recent apps button. It'll go away. You swipe to get your nav bar. You can get it deployed like that, so you can switch between whatever you need to switch between. Put it back, and it'll go away just like that. So it's not anything that'll get in the way. If you're worried about that, don't worry about it, because it will be a-okay as far as that goes. Display, as I said, is great. I prefer it over the LCDs that are in here, but there's also drawbacks, as I said. Viewing angles, blue shift, stuff like that. I haven't got any burn-in or anything like that, so I won't say don't worry about it, but as always, you could just replace your unit if that ends up being the case. I don't know. I don't know how this just unlocked, but it's whatever. The one thing I say is a benefit to not having an LCD is not having to worry about light bleed, and not having you do have to worry about stuff like, say, screen burn-in still, but I've had it more on these two devices than I've seen it on here yet. So just keep that in mind. That's pretty much it. As far as the LG V30 goes, I, in my opinion, think that it's an amazing sequel to an otherwise, niche line of itself. It focuses on the stuff that LG V series phones always focus on, while also giving you control, while also giving you a more elegant looking device. I will say that. Doesn't feel cheap. It feels sturdy. Nothing about it feels terrible. So if you're worried about that, don't worry about it at all. Lock mechanisms are, your knock code, your pattern, your password, anything like that. Face unlock, voice unlock, high V30. You could do that, do your face unlock, and it works very well. I have it set to I have it set to not I have it set to not instantly unlock, if it'll do it. To not instantly unlock when I look at the phone, so that I can just swipe it and look at my notifications if I want. But you also have your fingerprint sensor, so you don't have to rely on all those if they don't work 100% of the time, which a lot of these features don't always work 100% of the time. So Apple had to make it work at least a good amount of times enable for you to be able to use it, because that's the only lock mechanism they have. Samsung, you can't have iris and face detection on at the same time, but you also have your fingerprint sensor on the back there. Water resistance on this phone is great. Having the voice unlock and the face unlock make it easier for you to use it during raining and stuff like that, so you don't have to worry about putting your finger on the fingerprint sensor and it not sensing your finger because your finger is wet or something like that. But I personally think the V30 is a great sequel compared to its competitor, the Note 8. In a lot of people's minds, the Note 8 fell short of what they wanted. I don't necessarily agree with that. I think the Note 8 is great. It's still a great phone. But I just don't think it's the best phone just because it has an S Pen. I think it's a great phone, period. Because it ticks a lot of the boxes that I wanted to be ticked, and that's what matters to me. But let me know what you guys think of this. This is Sparta. Thank you guys for watching. Thanks for the support. Hope you guys have a wonderful Thursday morning, afternoon, or evening, or night, whatever time it is in your area. Have a good one. And be sure to share this video with anybody that has any sort of questions about the LG V30 and if it's worth it. Have a good one, you guys.